Ladies and gentlemen, innovators, entrepreneurs, and visionaries alike, welcome to a new season of Inno-Vision, your compass to innovation and entrepreneurship. I am your host, Nishchay Mishra, and today we embark on a journey that is sure to ignite your entrepreneurial skills. Our premiere episode of the year is a crescendo of excitement and innovation. Today we have the privilege of hosting an extraordinary guest, a powerhouse of ideas and a luminary in the world of business. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Ritambhara Sharma.
Thank you so much, Nishchay. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is all ours, ma'am. Ms. Sharma is the co-founder and the business head for a trailblazing venture Albatrot. Her journey from ideation to creation and now transformation is a saga that has inspired many, and we're absolutely thrilled to have her here with us. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur, an avid enthusiast of innovation, or just a person who's ventured into this episode is tailor-made for you. So grab your notepads, clear your mind, and fasten your seatbelts because we're about to embark on a journey that's surely going to light up your world. Without further ado, let's dive into this conversation with Mr. Ritambhara Sharma.
Great, let's get started.
So, ma'am, how's your journey been? Did you indulge into some extracurricular activities in your childhood days or in your colleges? And how did they enhance your personal life?
So it's interesting you asked me that, right? And looking back, I think when one is a child or one are children, you don't really think about what you're doing will actually lead you somewhere because you're so young. You do it for the passion and you do it for the drive. Growing up, I volunteered into a lot of public speaking, drama, and I was also in a lot in sport. So I think that really helped me build my confidence very, very early on. The theatrics and the drama really helped me, address public speaking. That's something I do now so frequently. So that was something that built my confidence on stage. Having to address a large audience, that was always great. Debates, declamations in the school, all of those things were always a fun thing for me. And now in retrospect, they have helped me, it's like a great confidence boost. It helps you think on your feet, decision making, etc. So all of those things really helped me build my skill set very, very early on. Sport also taught me collaboration and to also think on my feet again. So decision making, strategy. I used to play basketball.
So teamwork would also been a really
Yeah,
contributing
absolutely.
factor to it.
Absolutely. So collaboration and teamwork, those are the two things that were taught very early on unknowingly. So yeah, school was interesting from that perspective.
That's actually a very wonderful aspect of looking at life. There are so many other things that teach you outside of a classroom. Sports teaches you a lot about teamwork, enhancing decision making, thinking on your feet, so much more. That's one of the reasons why I also indulge in a lot of sporting activities. Theatrics I used to do in my school days, as of now, just focusing on whatever comes in my way. All right, ma'am. So, did you always wanted to pursue a career in entrepreneurship, or were you thinking of pursuing any other careers, such as like an artist, an engineer, or a lawyer?
Well, Nishchay, quite honestly, I come from a very, very long family of academics. Everyone is in my family is either a professor or a banker or a lawyer or a doctor. There is not one entrepreneur far and wide. So I think entrepreneurship happened to me quite by accident, a happy accident, I'd like to say. But in the scheme of things, it never figured. I always thought I'll build a career as a marketer, but attached to an organization, which I am, but just in a different way now.
So we can basically say you're the black swan of the family.
Oh, the black sheep, yes, not anymore though, but yeah, I had a lot of, my parents, my family had a lot of doubts that what is this girl doing, what is she going to do, sort of a thing,
Family questions always. Passion is something else than career building.
I think I was very focused from very early on. So they saw that and in some shape or form lended their support towards whatever journey I was on, and that helped.
It's definitely having your family's support behind you obviously helps in building something when you don't know where you're gonna go with something like Albatrot that you built.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful, ma'am. Right, just to get into the lighter side of the episode, what is your favorite genre of book or movie that you like?
Growing up, I used to read a lot of literature, like English literature, because I've also studied literature at my graduate level. So I used to read a lot of books by Jane Austen. I think Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell is one of my favorite historic books, so to speak. But as I'm getting older and now I like to read non-fiction biographies. I don't have the attention span, for the lack of a better word, to read a fiction book anymore. So I read a lot of non-fiction biographies, which is quite telling of the kind of people that you read about, where they've been, what has their journey been like. It's interesting to see their growth trajectory as well. And also, you don't have to remember the story. You can just pick it up whenever, and it helps.
That's actually quite inspiring, ma'am, because I've tried my own hand at reading books, and the only thing I've come around to is NCRT.
Oh,
More than that is just too much for me. Digesting an 800-page novel, whether it is fiction or non-fiction. I used to do it till I was in like primary, and that too I limited myself to extremely fiction and kid books. After that, I was like, okay, let's pace myself. Let's go to NCRT.
I think reading is anyway a dying art now, or a habit. But now there are other ways of gaining that knowledge. So you
Do you
guys, I'm
think
sure,
Kindle
watch.
killed it?
I'm sorry?
Do you think Kindle killed it?
No, I think I read on my Kindle and I still read. A lot of people who are habituated to reading books or consuming content like that, they still do it that way. People, I mean, my parents' generation, they still consume hardcover books. It has evolved to our generation to reading on Kindle. It has evolved to your generation to, consuming podcasts or listening to audiobooks or whatever. So I think the intent remains the same, but the channels are different now.
Yeah, so I think our viewers can agree to it that from your grandparents who used to read hardcover books, your parents who probably read books on Kindle, to now us who are listening to podcasts, and probably one of you guys is currently listening to this. All right, ma'am, let's continue forward. We've seen your profile. I mean, I was in awe after looking at your LinkedIn, your past experiences. And could you just tell us about working internationally with companies such as the Walt Disney Corporation?
I think I got very lucky very early on in my career. I got some really good breaks very early on. It was never strategized from my end. I just followed what my gut told me to. I was very instinctive in choosing these organizations and was lucky enough to catch a break early on. In terms of my experience, I think it was a great experience. So I started with the WPP group and I was doing experiential marketing there for a while. Then I moved on to Walt Disney and then followed that up with NBC Universal. So all three of these organizations, very large American conglomerates, right? So a couple of things, I think my key takeaways were that number one, my learning curve just shot up. Like as soon as I entered these organizations, the things I learned, the way they think, the tools they equip you with, it's amazing. But also you have to be a bit of a self-starter because you're so young. I mean, at least I was when I started out. It's easy to get lost in the crowd. So I caught on very early on the reins of legal, finance, feasibility, projections, licensing rights, all of that very, very early on in my career. The second takeaway was I got to work in international markets very early on again. So that was great. In my experiential marketing stint, I was working with a lot of international clients. In fact, Disney happened to be one of the clients that I serviced at that time, which was great. Within the Walt Disney organization, we used to attend content markets across the world. So I was lucky enough to get to travel very early on, learn the nuances of international markets. I think it was the same with NBC Universal as well, where I was dealing with international content within the Indian market. So again, exposure to international markets, international colleagues, international licensing and rights, all of that was great. So yeah, I think the key takeaways were, of course, all the learnings that I got. But most importantly, what I learned was about people, right? All of these organizations, I met such different kinds of people from all across the world. And the key over there was how to understand, to deal with different cultural nuances, how people in the West problem solve or are professionally inclined to deal with something versus how in India we do it. So it was very different. For example, I'll tell you, when I was doing content sales, I used to license Hindi Bollywood films in international markets.
Oh, okay.
As my stint in the Walt Disney organization. So while I was selling the same film to a distributor in Australia, it was very straightforward. This is the film, this is what it's expected to make, pay us this much, etc. And it was done. There was no conversation, no negotiation at all.
Direct.
But the same film, when I'm selling to Asian markets, like say Pakistan or maybe a market in Africa, which are underdeveloped and still, moving, coming up, there was always a negotiation on price, on the number of runs. Everything was negotiable. So I think that's where I started to break down that cultural nuances are
Exactly.
also very, very important.
I was coming to that, learning the cultural shift you might have experienced from going, whether it is company to company or going from domestic markets to international markets, and then learning from all these cultures. Because, as you said, Australia, it was quite direct, everything was planned out on paper and it went accordingly. However, when you went on to other markets that are traditionally or still developing in these nations, there must have been a huge cultural shift. And I also noticed one thing, ma'am. I think you're quite a person who takes an opportunity by the storm. You just grab onto it, any opportunity that comes at you. I mean, yeah, I would say that I always have been a bit of a go getter. So, even early on, I was quite inclined towards always putting myself in uncomfortable positions. I don't know if it was by choice, but I always found myself pushing the boundaries because, in my mind, that was the only way to grow. I still do that. I put myself on the spot, completely being unprepared. I think that's the way. If you're not shook out of your comfort zone, growth is not easy to come by. The best adventures are the ones that aren't planned. Yes, absolutely. That was a really wonderful work experience that you've had on international markets and domestic markets. So that was your work till you've done working for others, and then you started Albatrod. Yes. How did Albatrod come into formation, and how did Albatrod begin? Who gave birth to Albatrod? So Albatrot has been obviously a labor of love, and it's 8 years old now, but it happened quite by accident, if you'll believe it, if you'll believe me. So my co-founder Sham had just come back after finishing his MBA from Cambridge, right? And so he and I were chatting and just catching up, and I had by that time sort of left NBC Universal. So I was also in between things. I was figuring out what my next move was. And we got talking, and he was like, "Hey, I've had this really interesting idea about this travel app that we should do." So I was like, "Okay, great. I'm not doing anything. Let's do it." That's how Albatrot was born. So Albatrot, as a travel app. It was meant to be a travel app. Hence, wow, the inspiration behind the name is also the bird, which is the albatross, which circles the globe. Yes, yes. But so while we were building the app, we started taking up marketing assignments because that is what we are good at to fund the making of the app. And we sort of got outaged in the app department because someone already did it and they did it bigger and better. So that sort of got sidelined, and Albatrot by that time, the marketing services side of things, took up a life of its own. And here we are now, 8 years later. Yes. Wow. I mean, again, coming back to the point, the best adventures are the ones that you don't. Absolutely. Absolutely. You were trying to aim for something else and then you start with something wonderful. It's just inspiring when you come down to it. I mean, in today's competitive landscape, how much do you think social media marketing or for businesses such as your partners, I mean, you've got social, you've got Smokehouse there, you even have Unilever at this point. So, how does your firm expertise in this area? So, let me tell you, like you're saying, what about digital marketing, right? Is it important? Is it unimportant? How should businesses look for it? The way I look at it, or the way we look at it, I think it's hygiene in today's world. It's not something that is optional anymore. If you are a business that wants to be seen and heard, and you want ultimately people to purchase your products or services or whatever it is you're selling, you have to be on digital platforms. Now, whether you do it through social media, whether you do it through a website, however you choose to do it is immaterial. But I always say that it's hygiene now. It's what a website used to be for a business maybe 20 years ago. Now it's taken for granted. You have to have a website. If you don't have a website, are you even a business? It's almost like that. So it's not only is it important, it's become a part of the package. Like it has to be done. Yeah, I think whenever you're looking for any co-founders, or you're looking for founders or ventures that you want to partner with, the only way to get them or get to contact with them or know them better about their partners, their collaborations, the best thing is the website, which brings me to Albatrot's website. Ladies and gentlemen that are listening right now, please do me a favor, go to Albatrot's website and tell me that you love it. I fell in love with this website right from everything, whether it was the colors, the UX is beautiful. Who built this website? Was it a number of people? Was it a number of coders who sat down? Because that website encapsulates everything that Albatross is.
Absolutely. And thank you for appreciating our website. A lot of hard work has gone into it, obviously. I think the idea behind creating this website was very straightforward. We wanted it to be representative of our work, of course, our values, our culture, all of those things wrapped into one. And we are not very verbose. We don't like to write long essays on anything we do, right? So also, I understand that people don't have the attention span to dig through 8 pages of written material to get to the point. So we built our website from that perspective. It's straightforward. It's representative of the kind of culture we have, which is sort of cool, I would like to say. And yeah, visually also we stuck to our roots. The color palette is, of course, the albatross color palette. So we stuck to that. We've taken different birds as inspiration because that's who we are. We are birds of flight, and we are, sort of representing, just telling a short and sweet story for our website. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I noticed the fact that you said nobody has the attention span anymore to read, go through 8 pages, and that's why you put it in wonderful little paragraphs and appear out of nowhere when you
Yes.
scroll down. And then it is just now when you scroll down further, you see your collaborators. And then that's where it brings me out of all of your clients. You've got Smokehouse Delhi, you've got Social, you've got Unilever, you've had the past experience working with Disney. And I personally love Smokehouse Delhi. So, what was the most fun or the most unique experience that you had while working with any of these collaborators?
Right. So I think all due credit to our clients, a long list of lovely, very important clients that we've had since the beginning. Pre-COVID, we had a large bunch of clients who were hospitality based. So we were servicing a lot of restaurants and hotels and spa chains and whatnot. I think that changed drastically after COVID because everything shut down and we pivoted. But that's a story for another day. I think pre-COVID, we were quite focused on the hospitality side of things, and the impresario group was one of our largest and most prominent clients. Now, for the uninitiated, impresario is headed by Riaz Amlani. And he has under his belt brands like Social, Smokehouse Delhi, and many, many others, right? So I think he very early on entrusted us with his biggest brand, which was Social. And we were able to collaborate on another level. I think there was a point when a part of our team was operating out of their office. It was like that. We used to sit in most of their branches, brainstorm together. It was a very collective process because Social was not or is not just a restaurant chain. Exactly. It's a cultural phenomenon, right? Yes. It defines what it means to be an urban, outgoing person. And the age group is also like, it's not limited to young people or old people. It's very open. So in the day, it transforms into a co-working space. In the night, it's a nightclub. You can go drinking, you can eat. Like, the offerings are crazy. So we had to sort of put our heads together and figure out what is most representative of Social. And we did that by capturing the essence of Social throughout the day. So what it means to be at Social from day to night. So that was the objective we worked with for a long time. And I think it was pretty cool. We did a lot of great content for them. We launched, I think, 3 or 4 of their outlets. And that time they were just adding outlets, I think. So yeah, it's been very, very rewarding, very cool. Of course, Smokehouse Delhi was another one of their big restaurant brands that they entrusted us with. That was a completely different vibe for a completely different set of people, but also as rewarding as Social. So yeah.
Albatross, inspired by Albatross. I mean, Albatross specializes in targeted marketing strategies. Could you share a notable success story where your team's strategies significantly impacted a client's brand?
So I'll give you an example of a motor brand that we are associated with. It's called Isuzu Motors. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yes.
It's a Japanese pickup truck brand. They've been our primary or one of our key clients for the past 2 years. The challenge with Isuzu was very unique and I think noteworthy. They are a massive international brand, but they have not found their footing well, a very strong footing in India, purely because they are pickup trucks. And by association with the word truck, half the audiences are sort of lost because in India, I mean, a truck is not a good word, sort of a thing, you know. So our challenge was obviously was repositioning what it means to own a pickup truck. So the idea was to make it manly, rugged, you know, a little bit adventurous. So that was a side of managing the entire proposition that Isuzu brings to the table, and second was, which is where the most strategic side of things comes in, is pushing their sales. So from day one, what we had to do was to start moving stock. That was our primary objective.
Okay.
And we did that through a very strategic, targeted performance marketing campaign. That's still ongoing. Obviously, it changes, but the idea was to showcase the right kind of cars to the right kind of people, and then to book test drives. So I think we did that fairly successfully in year one. There were a lot of learnings, and we tweaked our campaigns along the way. But through strategic media buying through Meta and Google, we were able to achieve, I would say, resounding success. We were able to generate maybe over 26,000 leads in a span of 7 to 8 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, which was
That's a
quite
significant
notable.
rise, I think, when you're trying to find your footing. In just less than half a year, you raise up to approximately 30 grand amount of consumers.
So which was great, I think. So lead generation was one thing, and then that also leads to perception building and your digital community growing. So I think that is one notable and more recent case study that I'm able to share with you.
Isuzu is like quite a strong brand. I mean, I think I remember when I was in Japan, I had a cab that was in Isuzu.
Yes, it is a Japanese brand, so yes.
Yeah, I think in Japan, Japanese brands that have already found footing include Honda and Toyota in India, and getting into that market would have been quite competitive for you. But as you're saying, targeted marketing strategies, they obviously work. So entrepreneurs, you need to learn from your mistakes. You need to tweak your campaigns. You need to plan accordingly, and you need to see where you've gone wrong so you can not go wrong again. So learn from your mistakes. I think that is one of the key aspects.
Yes, absolutely. Improvise.
Improvisation. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the best. So now, you faced challenges for Isuzu. What were some of the challenges you came up with Albatrot? I mean, as you were saying, you were going to build it as a travel app. Then you just made it a digital creating app. So, how?
So I think, and I think this will sort of resonate with most young or new entrepreneurs. The biggest challenge for Albatrot that we faced when we were first starting out was building trust. So I think the early journeys of an entrepreneur has nothing to do with what product they are selling or what is the byproduct of their efforts, etc. The first and foremost challenge for everyone, irrespective of the industry or the product or the services, trust. Building trust with your clients and them entrusting you with their product or service to sell it on their behalf, I think has been the biggest challenge. And once we crossed that hurdle with some very notable brands early on in our journey, it just turned the tide around for us, because if one person has trusted us, others see merit in trusting us, and then it sort of pays itself forward. So that was the biggest learning takeaway and the challenge that we had for Albatrot early on.
I can agree to that because I personally believe communication and trust are the founding blocks of any sort of relationship that you build.
Absolutely, couldn't have said it better myself.
So, I mean, if someone entrusts you with their own brand because it's their baby, they've built it up from the ground, and then they entrust you for marketing it, strategizing on it, getting more clients for them.
Right.
I think because then you become their face, and having such a trust really helps you in building the brand. So
Right.
I can. Now, I have another question. You work with such notable brands. I mean, we've talked about it already. How do you get these clients? I guess, again, trust that you've talked about already. So, do these clients approach you or do you go and approach them? How is it?
So I would say for us there has been no fixed methodology. Like I said, we've been lucky enough to get a lot of our clients through word of mouth and recommendations. That has been great. Not to say that we haven't gone out there and pitched, we've put ourselves out there. A lot of times we face rejection from clients or projects that we were really hoping to get or really gunning to get. So there has been a lot of disappointment in the process as well. But our good work has led the way and it has helped us. The word of mouth has helped, recommendations have helped, and of course our past relationships in the industry that we have built over the years have helped. So, friends or colleagues that we met early on in our careers are now in other places that have, sort of helped us come on board or pitch or at least get an in. I think getting an in is always challenging, and that has been helpful for us through the relationships we've built. So, yeah, that's where we are.
Entrepreneurs, remember, networking is what gets you in. So it's not necessary that you'll always get the bag and you'll always secure a deal, you'll always get the client that you've always wanted to. But learning, meeting new people, experiencing, building good relationships, having good trusts with people gets you in the room. And once you're in the room, it's all you. There's no other external factors that's going to affect it. It's just you and what you need to build and what you pitch in front of the client to get their attention and to get them as a client for you on board. So you've put it well, ma'am. I mean, building
Just to add to your point, I think networking or, as you said, relationship building, like you said, is extremely important. Also, never expected to get instant results out of networking or relationship building. For in our case, and at least for me personally, it has been a story that has repeated so many times now that I know there's a method to this madness. Because any relationship that I have built over networking or just getting to know people over a period of time has never instantly manifested into business. It's always taken some time. It's again a process of trust building or getting to know each other, and by which point, after maybe a couple of years, also they'll come to me and say, "Hey, this is something we are doing. Can you help us with it?" So it's never instant, and putting that effort and time into building relationships always renders result, but it's never instant. I think that's the takeaway.
It's a fruit that you need to pull. Okay. We've talked about brand imaging. We've talked about how social catches on to attention to a lot of people. I mean, I can assume is that some of the entrepreneurs or the innovators that are watching us right now or listening to us as Spotify, they might be sitting in social or in any cafe thinking about with their partners, listening to ma'am. So, ma'am, could you share some insights into important aspects of, say, digital marketing, things such as visual elements, logos, and packaging of builds, and building a brand identity is what I'm trying to do.
So, interesting question, right? And again, this is not rocket science. It's very, very logical if you think about it. If you look at the digital landscape today, it's obviously extremely cluttered. So, for any brand or product or even a person to stand out on this particular platform, which is inundated with 100,000 different things every day, what will make you stand out is a unique or a core identity that is unique to you and stands out and representative of you. So I think what it does, having a unique or clear identity, what it does is A, helps you break through the clutter. B, helps you build recall and recognition, which is very, very important. So if today as a brand you look a certain way and then tomorrow you don't look that way, then how will people associate with you? So that consistency in your visual identity is important to build any sort of recall and also association. A brand identity is also very reflective of your value set. So if people are to associate with you as a brand through your value set, it has to be captured in your sort of visual identity as well.
Okay.
So today, if you say, look at Apple, I mean, the one example that everyone loves to quote, right? Why do people think Apple is premium and they want to be associated with it? Because their visual and brand identity is so clear and out there that anyone who looks at it instantly knows it's an Apple product or an Apple ad or an Apple whatever, because their visual identity is so clear. So in order for you to build recall, recognition and association with your TG, it is important for you to have a clear, concise brand identity which is reflective of your values.
So we basically need to mirror what our values are, what our culture is, what you know about us, our personality,
or what you're trying to say ultimately.
into our brand, so that it reflects of who they are. So that again brings us to the point wherein you're building a trust with the brand, you're also building a trust with the person that you're communicating with. So that brings it to image. So that's wonderful. I think what you even talked about consistency. I mean, you can't just start out with representing yourselves and then going accordingly to what others want or what the market is requiring to. Think sticking to your own self and representing what you are and your brand is really stands out. So having the USP obviously gets you out in the market quick and gets you recognition as well.
Absolutely.
All right, ma'am. Albatross has achieved, I mean, remarkable success. The baby is just 8 years old, and I mean, what were some key factors that contributed to this rapid shoot up?
Well, it's been a mix of things, of course, but if I have to say what is the lesson or whatever, takeaway that I've had in these past 8 years is a very simple things that it's like a law of physics that I go by. What goes up must come down. So you sort of have to keep that at the back of your mind. You will have resounding successes and you will have the highest highs, but you will also fail and you will have to go through the downs. There is no way around it. There is no story that will be consistently successful. There will be failures and you have to embrace it. But the one thing after many successes and failures that I've learned is, and the one thing that's kept us on the straight and narrow and kept us on this path is that we've been very consistent. Uh, Despite the successes or the failures, we've just been on the same path, doing the same thing, fine tuning what we are doing, trying to get better at what we are doing, being associated with the right kind of people, doing the right kind of work. So consistency, I would say, for any entrepreneur especially, is key more than anything else, more than the learning, more than the product, more than the innovation. Consistency is key. You could have the most innovative product, but if you're not able to work towards it consistently, it will fail. You could have the best idea, but if you don't pursue it with consistency, it will fail. So my takeaway is consistency is key.
So I think my dad tells me this every day. He says, Nishchay, believe in two things and two things only that will get you far in life. Number one is hard work. Hard work beats talent, and it is something that's been proven time and again. And the other is consistency. These two are like the building blocks of anything. And if you have this, you can grow up to anything. Talking about successes, ma'am, a few months back, Silicon India ranked Albatross #1 in terms of social media marketing startups. Could you just elaborate on the feelings that was there in the office, or who was the first one to see it and then talk about it in the office? I mean, I think that would have been quite a joyous occasion for having such a short amount of period of time for Albatross and then receiving such success and recognition.
Well, Nishchay, of course, any sort of recognition is, like a pat on the back for us. So whether it comes from a publication like Silicon India or from our clients or from our consumers on social media, it's always good to be recognized. This was no different. Slightly, obviously, put on a pedestal. When we first found out that this is happening, of course, there was a very high momentum in office. Everyone was excited, and so are we. So we don't take any recognition lightly. This has come through a lot of hard work and many years of persistent and consistent work. So while I'm grateful that we are being recognized, we don't do it just for the recognition. There's a higher or a larger goal at the back of it.
Obviously. So did this recognition get you eyes, or did any social media influencers at the end of the day reach out to you because of this recognition? Because I personally believe that if you want to get your brand out there, the quickest way in today's world for any marketing or for any startup, I believe, is getting hands on an influencer.
So I agree and disagree with you. Yes, collaborating with content creators or influencers is a good way to put your product or service on the map, but it can't be frivolous. Your audience or your consumer is not stupid today. They are very, very evolved. So any collaboration that you do with an influencer with the intent of putting your brand on the map has to be more meaningful. It has to be thought through. So any connection that you make has to be more evolved than just saying this guy has 500,000 followers, so let's give him our product.
Okay.
So that's my viewpoint, and we advise our clients to do the same. So none of the collaborations that we work with for our clients is ever frivolous. I would rather go with a micro influencer who has under 10K followers, but a meaningful community that he's built, rather than just give my product which has no connection to this particular influencer who has 1 million followers. It makes no sense. Your brand gets lost, and it doesn't give you the value for money that you're spending.
So I think again the part of your values and your identity, your personality should somehow align or just harmonize with the
Absolutely.
influencer that you're collaborating with, so that somewhere your identity isn't getting lost for the product that you built, and going ahead with it makes it easier and smoother.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Ma'am, during your entrepreneurial journey, did you encounter any gender specific challenges? And if so, how did you effectively address or overcome them?
So interesting question. I would say gender specific challenges, but yes, especially when you're a young woman in the workplace. I wouldn't say there are obvious biases, but there are subtle biases in the workplace that exist even today. It has more to do with people's conditioning than anything else. I don't think anyone means to have those biases, but that's the way most of us are raised, what I've learned and sort of has been my coping mechanism or strategy, I would say, is to take it in my stride and not be a little bit diplomatic about it. I feel like I think that's something that I have learned over a period of time. So if there are, especially as a young woman, if there are men in position of power in your workplace, instead of taking the hyper feminist route, and I can be very politically incorrect here, so but I'm just sharing what I have observed and done over a period of time. So instead of making a loud noise about it, what I've done is subtly and through being a little bit diplomatic, found my way across the organizations. That has helped me, but I think this is when I was a young person in the workplace. So it's about 15 years ago. Things have drastically changed in the workplace now. Every organization that you go to has a very, very strong diversity and inclusivity agenda. There are workplace cells made for women by women, where they can sort of take their grievances or just share. So there's a lot of empowerment in the workplace now that wasn't there necessarily when I was a young person starting out. And now, if women have to be heard, I think it's more internal now more than external, because workplaces are equipped to empower you. But are you equipped to empower yourself is the real question. So, as young women, I think what they have to remember or sort of do, and as my piece of advice, is to be confident enough to be heard. We as women, especially in India, are raised to be submissive and quiet. We have to always be nice. We can't disagree with anyone. We can't put our opinion forward and be angry. It's all of those things are not temperaments that you associate with a well-behaved woman, in the Indian context at least. But I feel now, if you have to be heard, then you can embrace a little bit of strategic aggression, I call it, to put your point forward. And the workplaces now are quite receptive to that. So,
And I mean, strategic iteration works as well. And I think working on your work and delivering them or responding to them by your work results, and letting the work respond to whatever you do. So it's like Virat Kohli says, I mean, let my bat do the talking. So that's the one.
fair enough. Yeah, of course.
Let your work do the talking, and that'll be there. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is what you've heard. Women entrepreneurs, you've heard what ma'am has said. You need to work upon the workplaces are equipped now, because it's today's world is 2023. They're equipped with everything that is there to empower women. It's all about you who needs to empower yourself have to have that capability or that skill set to empower yourself and put your point forth in probably a male-dominated workplace if you have so. As we're coming towards the end of the episode, ma'am, what is the vision and the future for Albatrot as of now? I mean, what are the goals that you're currently looking for? Any short-term goals if you have, and a long-term goal that you're trying to achieve in the next few years?
So interesting that you asked me that. I think very recently we've been working on our goals and vision for the next 5 years. So to put it in a nutshell, I think our focus will be to sort of build tools that are focused on digital platforms and also taking into account a lot of AI. So we are now exploring that side of things, seeing how AI tools can enable us to become better marketers, whether that's fine tuning our output in terms of visuals or just getting the right words out there, increasing our speed, efficiency, all of those things. So just exploring AI as an enabler for an organization such as us. So that's big on the agenda. That's something that we're doing. We're also looking at new lines of businesses now, and getting aggressively into that. I think the primary one that we are already doing but hoping to expand is performance marketing. So that's big on our agenda. That's something that we do really well. And now what we are doing is sort of working with smaller businesses who need performance marketing to get on the map. So that's something that we are aggressively looking at and building our product line to sort of get those clients on board and enable them to build bigger e-commerce enabled businesses. So that's another vision and goal that we have, which is sooner than later, I would say. And the third and the most important goal, at least for me, is to bring on board and invest in good people. I think that's always been our objective, and we've been lucky enough to build a very remarkable team of young people in a very short amount of time. That's something that we want to continue doing and hire the right kind of people, and help them build their careers and build Albatrot in the process. So yeah.
So for any of us, as let's just say engineers or someone who's just graduated with a degree in BA, if they would like to come and work for you, what would be something that they need to keep in mind?
I think most importantly, I would say attitude is the biggest thing that I check for before I hire anyone. A willingness to learn and a slightly aggressive, more focused attitude is something that I look for. Skills are teachable. So I don't think any sort of skill is not teachable. A willingness to work and a willingness to sort of align with the organization's larger goals is something that I look for. Skills is something that comes along the way on the job and is completely teachable. So for me, the person's personality matters the most.
So if you are looking forward to working for ma'am, the one thing that you need to keep in mind is be hungry to learn. And that is something that you also need to keep in mind whether you are currently experiencing or are in college and are learning your degrees and your passions. Be hungry to learn, always learn. There's always something to learn. Learning never stops. And with this, ma'am, what advice or words of wisdom that you have for our young and aspiring entrepreneurs? I mean, we have a very hungry audience here in college as well. And for any person who's starting their entrepreneurial journey, I mean, based on your own successes and experiences, any words of wisdom that you have to any of our audience?
Okay, great. So I'll, as as we conclude this conversation, I'd like to share this particular formula that I've created over the past 8 years. I call it the 3 Ps.
Take
Um,
notes.
Yeah, so basically, for any young entrepreneur starting out who's building an organization or a business, the 3 Ps that I go by is processes, people, and pride. Those are the 3 things that if you focus on, you are, geared for success. Now, let me explain it a little bit more. What do I mean by processes? Any business that you're starting out, you have to build it to scale. So, by which I mean that you have to rely on systems and processes to help it scale. So, right from the very beginning, put systems and processes in place that will help you automate a lot of things. Get apps or people on board who will take the burden off you, because working as an individual never helps. You have to focus on vision and growth. So it's important for you to outsource those bits either to apps or to people or whatever else. So systems and processes to scale. Second is, of course, people. So hiring the right kind of team is, I think, paramount. One person who is not a good fit for your team or your organization can sort of unravel the entire team. That's the kind of effect it has, and that's what I've observed and noticed in my experience. So I think hiring the right kind of people is again very very important. That also builds your culture as an organization. That's something to be proud of and take forward with you. And finally, pride. Like I said, whichever organization you're building or whatever work you're doing, be proud of what you're doing. Build that legacy so that whoever you're working with is, sort of wearing that badge with pride and taking that legacy forward for you. So yeah, the three P's. Those
The
are
three P's.
the three P's.
Three
Are
P's
my
and three P's. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the skills or the words of wisdom that Mr. Ritambhara Sharma has for any aspiring entrepreneur that are watching. And there you have it, folks. What an exhilarating journey it has been with the remarkable Mr. Ritambhara Sharma. As we conclude this captivating episode, remember that innovation knows no bounds. Take those ideas, nurture them, and watch them transform into the world. Before we say goodbye, ma'am, a big thank you for gracing us with your wisdom, your insights, and your presence. And to our listeners, you are the heart and soul of Inno-Vision. Your curiosity and thirst for innovation is what drives us and keeps this podcast alive. Stay tuned for more electrifying episodes, more brilliant minds, more awe-inspiring stories. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it with your fellow innovators. If you're listening to us on Spotify, save the podcast, like it. It really helps the algorithm. And this is Mr. Mishra signing off from Inno-Vision. Until next time, remember, your vision has the power to shape up your future. Keep dreaming, keep innovating, and keep building. Stay inspired, stay innovative, and stay tuned for more groundbreaking episodes. Goodbye for now. Right, that's
well.
cut.